Alright, hello YouTube. This is an intro video. I don't think I've ever done an intro video before, but I thought it would be a good idea since I'm sort of changing up the format um, of these game analyses. So, yeah, I started covering the 2022 World Cup, a tournament I played in the Chicago area in early July. I'm now at game 6. So this is game 6 and 7. I did this analysis live on stream, so we have some comments, some chats from Twitch, which is a little extra benefit, I guess, of doing it live. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the coverage. This is a 31 game tournament. I played another 31 game tournament 10 days after this one ended, so I have a lot of games to do. So I'm trying out the 2 game in a row format. Trying to give you guys more content per day, as well as try to get through these games before my next tournament comes and I have to do new analyses. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. And as always, of course, if you have any questions about what the hell's going on, feel free to ask so in the comments. And yeah, see you guys in the next intro video if there ever is one. All right. Okay, guys. The problem is I already have a position on the board because I already have this game. Because Noah already uploaded this. I don't know. I feel like I already analyzed this game, but I think I analyzed it with Noah and no one else. So this is round 6 of the Word Cup. So welcome everybody on YouTube watching this in the future. But this is round 6 of the World Cup. I just lost a game to Jared Capel and beat Joe Edley in a controversial game. And now I'm playing Noah Walton, who, in my opinion, was the favorite to win the World Cup. I feel like very often I just cannot touch Noah when we play. And this game is no different. So I think I made a few mistakes this game, and I'm going to bring you through that pretty quickly. Limited commentary, because I'm going to try to get through at least 2 games in a YouTube style format. So here, he opened with Perions very quickly. Noah likes to make moves fast a lot of the time. He's a very fast player usually, and often he'll make blank bingo plays very fast as well, which is insanely intimidating, but also slightly frustrating, because although he probably, like... Thank you for following, Zary Phoenix. Though he probably has seen way more bingos in the same amount of time that I have and considered them, it still means to me that he's not quite like totally trying to find the best one. The reason that frustrates me is because, like, I know that it doesn't really matter that much. Like in positions like these where you have how many bingos? Over 50 bingo placements. They're obviously, like, everything's very, very close. As long as you're following principles, like not putting vowels next to double letter scores, trying not to create an S hook. Also, if you have a blank, it's often great to try and double a letter that's already in the word to give your opponent less options. So every new letter that he gives me here is going to increase my chances of bingoing back. Of course, he's bingoing, so he's definitely going to give me RENOS. But if he could make the blank a third E or a second O or a second R, or second N, that would be ideal. I think he probably took the time to consider that and didn't see anything except with an S. And giving a second S, although like it does immediately decrease my bingo chances, that's sort of the exception to that rule of trying to give the fewest tiles to play through, because an S is just good. Like if it's at the start and the end of the word, you probably don't want to play senores here because or senores, because once one of the S's is blocked, the other one still exists. So that'll increase my chances of bingoing the next turn, basically. So this is Noah's opening. Perions, he says in commentary, openers seem sounder. It seems funnier too to open with openers. So I agree with his analysis. But yeah, welcome Zaire Phoenix. Putting the worst letter in the double word score line. That's true. The O is actually better than you think. That is why he's saying openers is better. Because openers puts the P. The P is a lot worse than the O in the double lane. That's another thing to consider, small thing to consider for sure. And also try not to put a letter in the triple lane that might stay open or that ends a lot of words like an E or an S. But yeah, you can't have everything. It's smart of Noah to play fast in this position because there's so many bingos, so much time to consider all sorts of things, and you might be wrong anyway. So, sorry, I just spoiled the next play. But yeah, here I played oof for 14 because I wanted to open lines and leave a lot of these floaters open. So although my play of oof for 14 scores 3 fewer points than something like foo, it makes sense to try and maximize my chances of a bingo next turn since I can't score much. However, a simulation reveals that I should probably have played foo, even though it blocks the O, the N, and the S, because it just gives less back to Noah immediately. Like after an oof play, he's going to be able to score a lot on overlaps or on the double lane. So if I just take the 3 extra points, reduce my chances of bingoing slightly, it's probably a bit better. But these positions are often what's going on here? These positions are often not very well understood by the engine. Often you should be opening a bit more lanes. Give me a second. You should probably be opening the board a little bit more proactively than Quackle thinks. Ooh, eye openers. That's really cool. So after openers, if he had played openers here, eye openers would have been possible. Really nice. Anyway, so this seems like a small mistake to play oof, and he bingos with aligners anyway. Where of course I gave him a little bit more for his bingo. If had I played foo, the bingo wouldn't have scored as much. So just another iteration where my decision was probably not so good. Here I play ZDs, keeping RUs, nothing to think about here. And this is the point in the game that I was the most frustrated. Of course, to get opened on with back-to-back like very high probability bingos and not have a real comeback for that is already frustrating, especially since I'm playing the person I think is the best player in the field. But at this point, when he played Zine, I got really upset. And Jello Mochas will know why I got upset at this play. Because he did the exact same thing to me. Well, not the exact same thing to me. But in 2017, I was playing Jello Mochas, and he played ZINES here. When he could have played ZEINS in the same spot. And what's the difference? The difference is that the play of Zine takes a lot of extensions, and the play of Zine does not. So there's one extension for Zine. It's DAID, died Zine. I can put that in the chat here. But with Zine, there's a lot. And in most situations, it's just better to play Xian because the extensions are just so likely that I'm likelier to have them than Noah. So when he played Xian, I was like, I'm pretty sure that he isn't like if he was like close to like triazine or atrazine, um, he probably wouldn't. He probably would bingo. But if he was close to an extension, I would have maybe understood a bit more. But in the position I was in, seeing the play that Noah made in such a short amount of time, I was pretty confident that he had just overlooked the fact that this is just slightly worse than Zine. There is also the situation of the B10 scoring spot, so that could be considered as well. The difference being quite minor there, but it's also a little bit easier, I think, to hit the B10 scoring spot. But to me, immediately, I saw this as an unforced error that someone was making because they were playing fast, and also because they don't consider things like this as much as I do. So Noah, as extremely good as he is, um, has his specific skill set. He sees things extremely fast. He barely misses anything, um, and he knows how to play Scrabble very very well. It's the very intricate details like this, um, where on another day he would probably play Zein, but the fact that it's not ingrained in his head yet that he shouldn't play Zine here is something that really frustrates me because it makes me feel like although this person is that much better than me, I know that I'm better than them at these very intricate details, which means that there's so much else for me to get better at to get to the level of someone like Noah. So it was mostly like, of course, I was frustrated that he wasn't playing perfectly and I was losing by 100 plus already, but it was mostly like an inner frustration of like, why is it that I would never make this mistake, yet this person that's like significantly better than me does it, and I'm just gonna lose to him like most of the time. It means that there's so much for me to get better at and improve at. And yeah, it was just like this realization in the middle of the game that I don't want to really have. I should just like I should just assume that there was a good reason for him playing us, even though there wasn't. In the in the comments, it's very funny. He noticed. Josh might have had a slight perplexed reaction to this play, or maybe I'm making that up. So we didn't discuss this, but that's exactly what happened. I made a face when he made this play. Um, yeah. Josh says he was annoyed when I played Zine because he thought I was not fishing for extension but just being reckless. So yeah, we did discuss it after he posted the game, and we did look at the game I think together after this. But yeah, it's very interesting discussion because the things that make me frustrated in Scrabble are not the same things that make other people frustrated. But I need to limit those things anyway. Um, yeah. Meanwhile, I make an opening bingo that floats an S hook. Yeah, I can't argue with that. Anyways, here I think there's a mistake. I think here the best play seems to be something like Fury. This might have been a slight mistake. The reason I played Farsi was to score. The problem is once something gets played on the D column, the R is blocked, and like this is also just giving back some scoring. So something like Fei, even though there's no O Fei, there was an O Fei hook actually. So something like Fei takes an O hook because we were playing in the NWL 18 lexicon, and so something like Fei is going to bingo a lot more than Farsi. So even though I'm sacrificing 9 points for Fei, it's a better play because I'm hitting this S, this O, this E, and this T. I'm hitting a decent amount of bingos after Fei, so that was a slight mistake of Farsi. Of course, when you're behind over 100, taking a score versus taking a higher chance of a bingo next turn, it's very hard to determine what to do. I guess I should have figured that I would have to probably bingo more than once to get back into this game. And instead of playing Farsi, played Fey, but who knows? Noah blocks with Oak. He says there's Smokey here. And here I got really lucky and I drew into Quite, which, by the way, would not have fit after Zein. Everything else would have been the same. Just to put fuel onto the fire of my frustration. But this was a very nice and lucky draw for me to get back into the game without a bingo. Here, Noah made this play, and it was very fascinating to me that he actually held scoring tiles. Normally, from my perspective, when he made this play of ARE, it seemed like he was holding like 3 vowels, 2 consonants, but the 2 consonants were like 1-point tiles. But it actually doesn't really seem that there's um, much else to do. So it's not really if Noah was still ahead by 100, he would never have made this play because it's a fishy play where he could score 27 with media. But now that he's only up 21 points, it makes sense to try and race for a bingo. I would play Quite with pretty much any rack. It's sort of what we would call a forced play. If you have the play of Quite, it's almost guaranteed you don't have anything better, which means that the likelihood of you having good tiles with Quite is lower because it's just the best play so often. Whereas with other plays like other plays that score reasonably in Scrabble, you can assume your opponent is holding better than average letters most of the time because they have a choice of plays that score similarly, and they've chosen a play potentially that keeps a better leave than other plays. But a play like Quite is what we would call a forced play, which means you can't really infer anything from the play. So Noah can't really think that I'm ever close to a bingo with Quite. I could be, but it's less likely than average. So R makes sense, trying to hit a bingo next turn. I think I would still have played something like media here if I were Noah, just to keep the scoring pressure on. Media would not have would media have blocked? Media might have blocked all of my bingos. So I had Pauline's and Pauline's as bingos, and I think if he had played media, I don't think I would have had anything because this lane wouldn't have been open. So lucky I get Pauline's down, and now I'm actually ahead by 37. So an extremely fortunate 2 turns. And Noah comes back with Masjid, which is really nice. And here I make another mistake. I think I should just play Winge, or Wingier here. Lots of plays are pretty close. I was operating under the impression that shoeings was not a word. It didn't take an S, but I wasn't even sure of that. So that should also make me like not want to make this play. Shoeing creates lots of X spots that I don't really need here. There's already X spots all over the board, but those might eventually get blocked. And just keeping the I with so few E's left is not really it's not a great leave. If I can't bingo with an I, the I is just a bad tile. So something like Whim is actually pretty good here as well. But I saw Wingier, wasn't sure of it. I could also just play Winge. There are a lot of consonants unseen, so I think the best play here was Winge for 34. But I didn't play it. And then yeah, he had the X. He drops the X. Not much to be said here. Now I'm down 40 again, and my letters are very bad. So I felt like there wasn't really a great path to coming back into the game without drawing into a bingo. So I played Verger to try and open some spots on the board. Of course, it's possible that I can come back without a bingo here, but it's kind of unlikely. Like Noah could have U's, and he could have like the worst stuff in the bag. But Verger, I think, makes sense to try and pry a little bit of the board open and potentially bingo later. Noah plays veg, he just keeps scoring. By the way, Noah's extremely good at just keeping the scoring pressure on no matter what. That's one of the other things that I don't know how he does it. But he's just always applying scoring pressure, no matter what. Like even if he's down 70, he makes plays that make you worry that he can bingo next turn, but also score again and get back into the game that way. And here I make another small mistake. I was not 100% sure of Bawty. The reason being, if I replace the B with the D, Doughty is not a word, spelled with the Y only. It's only good with the IE. And I thought that I had remembered a game that I played against Seth Lipkin many, many years ago, where I phonied him with one of the two Bawty or Doughty words. And I thought it was Bawty because I thought it scored 42 points on a triple, and it was on this triple here. But in fact, I think it was Doughty, and it scored 39. But I had misremembered that. So instead of taking the DST, which is more balanced than STT, I duplicated my T's here, which makes it, again, less likely that I can come back into this game without a bingo, but I already kind of need to bingo here, so it's not as big of a deal as possible because STT and DST, they bingo similarly well in the next turn or couple turns, but still a slight mistake to not keep the balance of DST. And here Noah plays Barbutt. And again, I'm struggling with not enough vowels because, again, I played shoeing keeping an I rather than whinge keeping EI. If I had played whinge, I probably wouldn't have been struggling so much with vowel shortage here. But I played trad, which I thought was like the only move that I could make because it keeps scoring and it blocks the scoring spot. I mean, that's not as big of a deal. But the reason I thought trad was like the only move is because it's the only play that scores like 22 points and doesn't like block anything really. And afterwards I can maybe hit a bingo. But yeah, I just totally misevaluated this. Like it's pretty unlikely to hit a bingo on the three row after trad. I have one of the last two A's. I should probably play something. I didn't really like playing something like Trend because I actually kind of need all the lanes I can get here. This FE even might be useful because Noah's probably going to play pretty defensively in this position, but I think something like Trend or Tend was potentially better here to keep the A and potentially even bingo on the one row or through this I. But yeah, things are looking pretty bad here. Noah finds a really cool play of Ogam for 38 points. And now he's ahead by 80, so I felt like emboldened by the fact that he was ahead 80 now, and I really just needed to keep the scoring pressure up myself if I wanted to win. And this was a very interesting spot. Took me a while to settle on this play, but I'm down by 80. There's 79 points, and so a regular bingo through this I or like from this E, those are just not going to work anymore. I need to score some points and threaten to bingo and do something a bit more desperate. So I play Pongs, getting rid of my only S, hoping that shoeings wasn't a word, because if shoeings was a word, this play would be a lot worse. There are 6 tiles in the bag, so I decide to play Pongs to try and hit a bingo in 2 spots, or create a situation where, unseen to Noah, there are 9 letters, and those letters can bingo through this I, maybe through this V, and can bingo down low as well. So create a situation where a bingo will likely win the game for me. And here Noah went into a huge think. And he ended up playing U after a very long think. He had like probably 18 minutes left on his clock or something crazy before this play, and I think he took like 10 minutes or more on this, and he has a lot to say here. So I will be posting this game onto Cross Tables eventually, or you can watch it on YouTube and like pause the video to read all this. But in the interest of time, even though this is really, really amazing analysis by one of the best players in the world, um, there's a lot of math in here, a lot of calculation that went into his play. I was very surprised that he didn't actually empty the bag, but he did calculate pretty precisely that he could win. He could win after this, even if I bingoed on the 15 row or on the 4 row. So even a situation where I'm scoring as much as I can and threatening a big bingo, he can still get tempo on me, leave one in the bag, and outrun a lot of my bingos, which just goes to show that a 50-point deficit is a lot more than you might think. The best players can really figure out how to still win the game, even if they're only up 50 points and there are a couple tiles left in the bag. So he did have the blank here. I didn't have a bingo, but I saw that I could draw into Idiolect, and if I drew the blank here, I could draw into I could draw into what bingo could I draw into? Latticed. Was it? I think it was latticed and Idiolect. But I figured that he had calculated precisely enough that he did not have the blank. But maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. Like, this play might have indicated to me that he didn't have the blank and he was worried about blank bingos. But yeah, I was trying to go for the blank. Didn't work out. And yeah, he blocks Idiolect. I did draw into Idiolect natural, but of course now he has perfect information. He knows what to block, and he calculates the end game perfectly. And yeah, that was the game. So Noah won 478 to 419, and that was game 6 of the Word Cup. And dystopianist mentioning, of course, very, very important reminder that because Noah didn't waste his time on his opening play just to get maybe another point of equity, another point of value, he was able to calculate through everything in this pre-end game position where it was possible that either player would win. So of course, that is what I was saying. I am not a player that really plays very fast in many situations, unless my play seems obvious. And I don't tend to get into situations where my time trouble is actually not allowing me to properly investigate a position. But that's just because I think my style leads to games that tend to be over for one of the two players before there's any need to even try and win in the pre-end game. I don't know why that is, but of course, if I start to get into more situations like this where I've run out of time and I haven't been able to calculate things, I'm definitely going to reassess how long I take on racks like this. But it is a very good point Dystopianist is making, that not burning time on more trivial decisions allowed Noah to spend his time where it was most important in this position. And hello to Reset. How is it going? Welcome in. Okay, that was game 6. Let me find game 7. Where's my folder here? Oh my god. I have no idea. Oh, it's right here, isn't it? No, it's not. Where's my Word Cup folder? Oh, it's right. Yeah. Sorry, my room is a little bit of a mess. You guys can't see it though. Fellow Montrealer, cool. Okay. Game 6 of Word Cup complete. Excuse me, sorry about that. And At this point in the tournament, I am 4-2 after losing to Jared and to Noah, but I was happy to score over 400 in both those games and not lose by a large margin. So definitely still doing quite well in the standings. And this next game, I am playing against Rafi Stern, who a very, very strong player, one of the best in North America. He's been sort of away from the game, or he had been sort of away from the game for many years. I think he focused his efforts a decent amount more in poker, because there's actually money to be won in poker. You can actually make a living playing poker, whereas you can't do that playing Scrabble yet. So he hasn't been like, he wasn't really super active, but he always attended the championships and sometimes another tournament during the year. And actually, he was the person I played in 2019 for the Crescent City Cup Championship, where I lucked out and was able to win my biggest ever tournament. So that, and later in 2019, I played him at nationals, and I've shown this game before, I think, on stream, but it's worth mentioning that, like, the few last games that we had played, how do English, the last few games we'd played, something ridiculous happened, like, that allowed me to win the game. So I definitely had, in my opinion, some sort of psychological advantage in the matchup, but anything can happen. I was first to act, and I draw this rack, which contains a 7-letter word. It's a common word, so I tend to struggle finding these words, but luckily in this position I did see it, and was able to start the game off with mantras. 74. And Rafi gave me some of his leaves. Some of his leaves in the game. His next move was Hemiola. Again, this is a very similar situation to the last game where Noah opened with a bingo against me, where Rafi is making a logical decision to not constrict the board with a play like Ohaya, and block a lot of the letters he can play through to bingo. And instead playing Hemiola, which sort of opens things, creates a decent lane on the 3 row, creates another floater in the L, another floater in the O, the H. So this play makes sense, but again, it's, I think, the same situation as last game, where my play that was attempting to open the board was potentially inaccurate because of just because of what it gave back immediately. So this play of Hemiola is allowing me to score a bit too much, and you'll see why. So something like Ohaya, I think, at G8 is still probably okay here, or even Ohaya at G4, even though it does block. It tends to it potentially gives less back. But yeah, it still might be the right play. But yeah, there was discussion about it, maybe something like Maho or something. I don't remember what we really discussed, but there are a few people that postmortem the game afterwards. But Hemiola comes down, which gives me a nice scoring play of Foley. But there was actually, oh, I actually have this game. Wait, I actually looked at this game already. Should I pull it up? I think I will, actually. I believe I have it. Is it this one? No. It is this one. Close your eyes if you don't want to see the end of the game. Okay. So Foley comes down here. Definitely possible that something like wolfed or fouled is reasonable here. Because although it only scores 40 compared to 44, I'm setting up my Y with wolfed or yeah, I think it's flowed that sets up my Y the best. So I can overlap on the 2-row with a 3-letter word ending in Y. So it's very close between just playing flowed and playing Foley. I play Foley. Yeah, lots of things can hurt. It's really just a question of balancing out the risks. So yeah, it's one of the most difficult positions in Scrabble when your opponent opens with a bingo. What do you do? So here Rafi draws extremely poorly and plays poi. I draw the blank and I managed to just get QIS down, feeling really good here. Rafi plays Koki, which makes sense. Now he's trying to open things up on the bottom. Maybe try to bingo from this R. And here I get to play a word removed from the North American lexicon. Since we were playing with the unabridged version, I get to play Jew, which is funny because both me and Rafi are Jewish, so we had a little chuckle over this play. Nobody was offended. He plays Bondo, which is a great draw here, and if he can draw like an S or an X, he might be in business here. However, I, to my DID, draw EEA, and I'm able to play readied for 100 points atop of Bondo, which is absolutely insanely stupid. And now I'm ahead 160 points. So I think you guys know where this game is going. You think members of the tribe should still be able to play that. Here I don't have his racks anymore. He played in curve. He's still kind of trying to win, I think. In curve does an amazing job at keeping the board alive. Many bingos can now occur, maybe through the eye or hooking in curve. But yeah, the game is pretty much over here. If he could resign, he would, because I play Scrooge for 96 right after playing readied for 100. And now the game is just ridiculous. I'm ahead 242 points against a player of probably equal strength, if not. I mean, his results are probably better than mine, so at best, I think we'd be equal strength if we looked at results. But yeah, this is just kind of stupid. The rest of the game goes by. He plays Goner. I play Flu. He plays John. I play Brits. Just trying to contain the board. This blocks the A column bingos unless they start with G vowel vowel. Blocks the Koki hook. And here Rafi tries a phony on me, which I'm ahead 260 points, and this would score 74 points. So it'd bring him to 274 to 460, which means that if I challenge this word and it's valid, he can still actually win. He can play a triple to come back in the game. It's extremely unlikely, but it is still a good move because it's extremely hard to challenge when letting the play go is a sure win. It's in everything Scrabble. Okay, cool. But when he put this on the board, I was just like, nope. I I can't accept this. This looks so unlike a word, and I have to trust myself. In these championships, if you don't trust yourself, you're just not gonna win. You need to make tough decisions like challenging the aridity. So after around 30 seconds of contemplation, I challenged. The play came off the board, but before that, Rafi had drawn his tiles, which you're allowed to do after 15 seconds of being on hold. It's called a courtesy draw. Um, and yeah, the courtesy draw permits you to look at the tiles you would get if the play is accepted or if the play is valid. Um, and so when I challenged and neutralized the clock, we looked up the word. It came back invalid. Came back to the board, and he had his letters, and he actually put down AER, so Ayer, and TAX, if I remember correctly. Um, and I was like, oh my God, does he have taxpayer? Like if luridity were invalid, or if luridity were a word, would he have hit me with a 200 point play and come back into the game? But no, his last letter was not a P, and I also realized that I had the last P, so that wouldn't have been possible. But that just shows how close he got to being able to potentially swindle a game if I had made the wrong decision. Hey Dan Trapdoor. So here, with knowledge of Rafi's rack, I just decide to play invites, try and score, block some lanes, and end the game as soon as possible. And funny enough, after I played Jew, Rafi played Yid, another word that was expurgated from the NWL 2020 lexicon. And so we had a funny laugh at this too, which again, at this point in the game, since the game was already over, I was trying to lighten the mood, so I was like, all right, you got me back. I played Jew on you, you played Yid on me. Well done. Um, and Yid was an interesting play because I knew his exact rack. So he has, yeah, Dry Suit, which is a nice find by Dustin in chat. Keeping IRT blank, so he needs to draw into a bingo starting an S, which didn't seem super likely, but did seem possible, and I actually had 7 consonants, so there's nothing I could do really to block the lane. So I play Zek, keeping my X, trying to score with the X later. He actually gets Sotoir down, which makes the score somewhat reasonable for him. He's going to hit 300, which is always the goal when you have these games like the one we had here. Here I play X in the end game. I don't actually remember. I think I calculated the end game. Quackle wasn't able to solve this end game, but I'm pretty sure X was correct. I don't know. I had to solve it all manually, but I'm not gonna say for sure that I made the best end game play, but he did. And then Pat was correct, and then R was correct, and I won 560 to 340, very round number finish, totaling 900 points exactly. And yeah, this was a very nice win. It felt very good, but it also felt like there's nothing Rafi could have done. Yeah, his decisions on his first 3 moves might have been potentially slightly inaccurate, but it's hard to say. Yeah, that was round 7. And yeah, that's what happened. So I think I'm gonna make this one video. So YouTube, I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, I will end the video now.